Hey everybody, welcome to Mining Stock Daily and a video version of this corporate update. Today I am joined with Mr. Brandon Macdonald. He is the president and CEO of Fireweed Zinc. Fireweed is traded on the TSX Venture with the symbol FWZ and also on the OTC markets with FWEDF. Brandon, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to be here.
We just wanted to give a quick corporate update based on the results from the boundary zone that you released yesterday. You said this was the final hole of 2019, that boundary. Exceptional grades on the wider interval. You graded 4.14% zinc over a true width of 230 meters. But why don't you walk us through narrowing those intervals down and getting into what you actually called very high grade sections, quote unquote, into your news release?
Yeah, I think that there's the broader envelope there. Boundary zone has always kind of been known as broad intervals but low grade. 4.1% zinc over 230 meters true width. This is 300 plus meters intersected. I would call it that's approaching mid-grade for a zinc deposit. If not mid-grade, you look at the average head grade of a zinc deposit in the world, that's probably actually slightly higher or comparable to the average open pit grade. But what was particularly interesting was the first about 100 averaged just under 8% zinc, which is definitely good grade. Within that, you did have some other intervals. You had 9 meters intersected, including width of about 40% zinc. So we're finding these high grade shoots, vein clusters and veins within the broader interval that are really elevating the overall grade. The residual grade, when you take those out, still quite healthy. So what we see here is there's two things to pay attention to. One, a massive envelope of low-grade mineralization. Second, within that, some very high-grade systems that it's clear we need to get a better understanding on what drives them, where they're located, where they're going, etc.
One thing I did want to ask you, because even in those first two bullet points, the second one you actually wrote, the boundary zone has potential to be mined in a low strip open pit and to be upgraded through low-cost ore sorting technology. You and I, along with Fred Ernest from Vista Gold, talked about ore sorting over during the Beaver Creek Summit last month. So I don't necessarily want to talk about that. What's really caught my attention, though, is really you and in the company's kind of forward progress into actually looking at mining this and extracting it. Like it's almost like you took a jump from exploration into really thinking about this long term. And tell us, as an investor, why that is important. And we're not just talking making more discoveries. You're actually looking at building this thing out almost.
Yeah, we had talked before about how our exploration is what we consider engineering-led exploration, which is to say keep the engineering realities of any particular zone in mind as you're exploring there. That includes both, what's the margin on the zone, and margin being about mining costs, processing costs, etc. But also, where does it fit into the mine life? If you've got a long, healthy underground mine life and you're adding stuff that is going to appear because of depth in the later years, it doesn't move the needle on NPV, right? So why are you, investing a lot of energy in that? Particularly our PEA showed a potential 18-year mine life. Adding to that is not a great way to spend money in a cash challenged market like we have. So what we wanted to be is like, okay, everything has got to be about what does this mean for the NPV. Mm-hmm. Boundary zone, when we did the additional sorting test and we acquired it off tech before that, then we did a sorting test. It was all about, this could be a bolt-on, this could operate in parallel with Tom and Jason, either the materials commingle as they're processed, or you campaign through the mill. But the key thing is that it has to be done in parallel, because having it at the end, there's no point investing energy in something that's going to appear at the end. So that sorting said, okay, look, this low-grade material actually can be pre-concentrated to a very high degree before going to the mill, which the single most expensive part of the process for Boundary, because it is open pit, because it looks to be low strip, is going to be the processing. So processing 2 to 3% zinc material is, you're losing a lot of your margin in that step. Now, ore sorting suggests we could upgrade it substantially before processing. And, the ore sorting is a, almost order of magnitude cheaper first step instead of jumping right to the mill. So that's kind of where our head was at. When we jumped into Boundary Zone, it was always about, what does this mean for the mine? I think a lot of geologists, particularly geologist-led companies, tend to fall in love with their deposit. It's about the geology and these geological problems. But at the end of the day, we're not building, this is not about, science, or, it's not a science fair project. This is a mine. It has to be able to make money, and we have to know what the mine looks like. So that's always been, at the forefront of our methodology.
Well, and one of the things that needs to be done as you kind of decide what that mine looks like, obviously, is some sort of mineral resource estimate on the Boundary Zone. In the news release, you did write that the current resource estimate, Boundary Zone, is not included in that. But then I was reading a little bit more into the news release. I mean, you have historic 24 drill holes that you have available to kind of start putting some data together. So do you expect to put some sort of resource estimate on Boundary, or what needs to be done more as far as drilling and step out and definition drilling to be done before an estimate could be done?
I don't think we could get an estimate with our current data. There's 24 drill holes, but that's over a 1.5 kilometer strike length. So most of the time it's just too far between them. The core where we drilled has almost 10 holes that are pretty, not tight, tight's not the right word, but tight enough that maybe you could get an inferred resource on it, given the broad nature of the mineralization. But I guess when that core zone, when we just demonstrated that there's grade potential beyond what was previously estimated, and when we know it's basically open in every direction except to the south where it comes to surface, why would you do that now? Because it's like you haven't really defined it. Now, we may, after next year's drilling, still not have it defined, but may choose to be like, well, let's put a number on it anyways, particularly if we feel like people are going to be really impressed with that number. Certainly our internal thumb sucks on what Boundary Zone looks like is that it's really big.
What about any other news outside of Boundary Zone that could be coming out for Fireweed? Anything else from Tom or Jason, or what can investors be expecting before the end of the year?
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot. I'm not going to lie, before the end of the year. We've got all the drill results out. Next technical work would be the upsized sorting study at Boundary Zone. We will look to put out a news release that kind of summarizes the exploration thesis at the broader part of the property, particularly headed out west as we head to Boundary and that area. And it'll include some new data that people haven't seen, gravimetric surveys, geochemical surveys, that sort of thing. But this is the nature of a Yukon play, is that when winter comes around, the news flow is not quite what we'd all love it to be. We can't drill 12 months a year, or just say we can't drill 12 months a year without serious cost inflation. Right. And when you're running out of money before you're running out of time, as we are in these markets, you might as well confine your work to the peak of summer where your costs are the lowest.
Mm-hmm. All right, Brandon. Well, thank you so much for that update. We look forward to catching up with you this winter, hopefully in Vancouver during Roundup. And we'll be sure to do another update with you then. Until then, have yourself good holidays, and we'll catch you again, my friend.
Catch you later.